News Central now at this hour begins with politics as the crisis within the People's Democratic Party continues. Bauchi State Governor and Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed, has urged the factional acting National Chairman, Umar Damagum, to restore the party to its previous state. Reports indicate that the PDP Governors Forum has scheduled an emergency meeting for Monday to address various concerns surrounding the party's future. An anonymous source revealed that PDP stakeholders are considering the formation of a caretaker committee to guide the party towards a national convention where a new national working committee would be elected. Since Umar Damagum assumed the role of acting national chairman following the court-ordered removal of Senator Iota Ayu, he has faced growing criticism from the party leaders. Many are calling for his resignation as the party's internal conflict persists. Damagum's indecisiveness has also exacerbated tensions in Rivers State between Governor Sim Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike, the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory. A federal high court in Abuja has reinstated Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. The court upheld the validity of the party's 2024 national convention held in Nnewi, where Abure was re-elected. Justice Emeka Nwite ruled that the convention adhered to all legal procedures and directed the Independent National Electoral Commission to recognize Abure's leadership. This decision comes after INEC had previously refused to acknowledge Abure, claiming that the March 2024 convention violated the Nigerian Constitution and the Electoral Act. However, the court's ruling now affirms Abure as the legitimate leader of the Labour Party. To discuss this, we're joined by a lawyer and a member of the Labour Party, Monday Mawa. Hello, Monday. Thank you for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now before we take on this new ruling, can you help us understand the current maze that is the Labour Party? Tell us about the factions and who leads which. All right, we'll try to reconnect with Monday. Chairman of the Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission, Plangji Chisak, has condemned in strong terms what he termed as abduction of an ad hoc staff of his commission while on official duty. Wechwar Hosea was on electoral duties in Mangu local government area during the October 9, 2024 local council election when he was whisked away by unknown people before he was rescued by a team of combined security forces 48 hours after. News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe tells us more.
Government election in Plateau State has come and gone with its pros and cons. Apart from voter apathy, as reported in some quarters, one other sad incident was what stakeholders termed as the abduction of a Plasiek ad hoc staff while on duty in Mangu Council area. Chairman of Plasiek did not mince words while condemning the act, insisting the miscreants will face the full wrath of the law.
I am going to take this thing very personal. You cannot abduct the life of a platoon man and keep him for 48 hours because of election. And in that respect, that those polling units that felt that they cannot even listen to security will not allow that to happen. Elections have to be repeated in those three places to ensure, and whatever maximum support we'll get from security, we must get it from that to ensure that the proper thing is done.
The ad hoc staff who settled for what he didn't bargain for on the election day narrated his ordeal in the hands of his abductors. He was weeks away, forced to collate results of the wards, which wasn't his responsibility.
Every attempt to intervene, myself was not allowed to move. He was not there trying to reach out to my CEO. There were network challenges and other things like that. So the security came, I think, at different times, trying to intervene, but I was not allowed to be moved. I used the initial permission he granted via text, and I was able to do the collation and finish up the election process so that I can be free of that place.
Commander of Operation Rainbow, who doubles as special advisor to the governor on security, commended the cooperation of security agencies and that of PLASIEC in ensuring the safety and release of the ad hoc staff.
After 48 hours, as far as we're concerned, it became a case of abduction, because the law has various channels for you to, seek redress if you are not satisfied with an election, not to hold someone hostage. And that's why we took the steps that we took, So it was a combined effort of all the security agencies, the military, the police, the civil defense, and Operation Rainbow, to get him out.
How this incident ends, most likely as a deterrent to other lawbreakers, is what the people of Plateau State look forward to seeing. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu's move to reform the nation's revenue collection system has sparked intense debate. The recent bill, which proposes scrapping the Federal Inland Revenue Service and replacing it with the Nigeria Revenue Service, has continued to generate diverse reactions. Our correspondent, Joshua Marai, tells us more.
President Bola Tinubu recently submitted 4 tax reform bills to the Nigerian National Assembly, and one of them is making waves. This particular bill proposes scrapping the Federal Inland Revenue Service and replacing it with the Nigerian Revenue Service.
The Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill repeals the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act number 13 of 2007 and establishes the Nigeria Revenue Service to assess, collect, and account for revenue accruable to the government of the Federation.
The move by the president has generated quite a number of reactions among business experts and policy analysts alike.
I think it's a very good initiative because what he's trying to do is to consolidate the tax system. For example, now you have customs that collects tax, and you have other government agencies that collect tax. That is not good. That leads to a lot of leakages. So what he's trying to do is to curb these leakages.
They say if the bill is passed, the reform process will require careful consideration on how to integrate departments previously saddled with revenue generation responsibilities.
You have to think through it properly. You have to see how do you retool those institutions that we are performing revenue collection functions, take out the department, maybe harmonize. It may require some redundancies in terms of departmentalization. So you change. Staffing might also be affected because if there are staff in NPA that are basically collecting revenue, you would consider whether you're transferring them to the new NRS or you are, closing down their department and transferring them into other functions of the NPA, for example.
While the bill has great potential, some experts wonder it may face pushbacks from groups with vested interest, which could slow it down.
First, you're going to see some fight back, tough battles. I mean, it may look so calm now, but once the bill enters public hearing and many of the bureaucrats see that they're going to lose their revenue returning power, we might see crisis in the build-up. The bill may not pass as smoothly as we think. You might see some lobbying and corruption into the system. And I won't be surprised if the bill gets passed in a much more watered form.
As Nigeria seeks to streamline its tax and fiscal framework, the proposed bill is expected to enhance tax compliance, minimize dispute, and optimize revenue collection once enacted. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Court in Abuja has ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria to pay Kasmal International Services 579 billion naira for helping the Nigerian Postal Service collect stamp duties between 2015 and January 2020. The court also ruled that the amount must be paid with 10% interest annually. Justice Inyang Ekwo delivered the judgment, rejecting arguments from the CBN and the Attorney General that NIPOS lacked authority to collect stamp duties. The court maintained that the previous judgment in favor of Kasmal still stands. Kasmal had earlier received 10.3 billion naira, representing 15% of stamp duty collections from deposit money banks during the same period. Away from that, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on President Bola Tinubu to instruct the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to reverse the recent second hike in petrol prices within 1 month, pending the outcome of a lawsuit before the Federal High Court in Abuja. The suit challenges the legality of NNPCL's authority to raise fuel prices. In a statement issued on Sunday, SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare explained that the organization had filed the lawsuit last month against the President and NNPCL for failing to reverse what they described as an unlawful increase in the pump price of petrol, as well as for not investigating allegations of corruption and mismanagement within the NNPCL. SERAP emphasized that allowing the court to hear and rule on the matter aligns with the Nigerian constitution. The organization also warned that if the price increase is not reversed, it could severely impact the country's most vulnerable citizens and undermine the integrity of the constitution. Governor Umar Namadi of Jigawa State has suspended his special advisor on salary and pensions, Alhaji Bashir Ado, following an alleged premature statement regarding a 70,000 naira minimum wage. Now, this was revealed in a statement signed by the Secretary to the State Government, Bala Ibrahim, in Dutse on Saturday. The government expressed concern over a report circulating in the media claiming that the governor had approved a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira for state workers. Ibrahim explained that due to this development, the governor has approved Ado's immediate suspension pending an investigation by a committee chaired by the State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice Bello Abdulkader. The committee tasked with determining the source, content and motive of the alleged statement has been given 2 weeks to submit its findings. Meanwhile, a whistle-blowing coalition, the Coalition of Anti-Corruption Civil Society Organizations for Development, has raised an alarm over alleged misappropriation of funds ongoing in the nation's Ministry of Niger Delta Development. The group, while calling on the federal government and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to verify the claims, investigates the permanent secretary of the ministry and bring to book those complicit in the allegations. The group spoke to newsmen in Abuja, accusing the ministry of refusing to respond to its Freedom of Information requests while highlighting allegations it is seeking answers from the ministry.
The countless infractions committed include non-execution/diversion of 30 million naira for medical outreach of staff of the Ministry of Niger Delta Development. It was not done. Non-execution/diversion of 21 million for skills development seminar in Akoko, Edo State. Non-execution/diversion of 19.3 million for skills development in Ilaje, local area of Ondo State. Diversion of 342 million for extra budgetary allocation proposed for rice palliatives. Misappropriations like diversion of 15 billion naira flood palliative for Niger Delta region. Most alarming recently is this diversion of 342 million for extra budgetary allocation proposed allegedly for rice palliative for Niger Delta. While there are no budgetary provisions for procurement of bags of rice, in the 2023 budget, we are aware that on the 22nd of May 2024, the Permanent Secretary gave instructions for 5 departments to raise a total sum of 342 million naira. The departments are Infrastructure Development, Economic and Empowerment Department, Community Development and Education Department, Urban and Housing Department, and Environmental Management Department.
When we come back after the break, You'll hear that new Asaba of Asaba, crowned as indigenous, anticipates a fruitful reign. We'll bring you this and many more after the break. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now we'll be going back to politics. So we've been able to reconnect with Monday Mawa, the lawyer and member of a Labour Party, to speak on Labour Party politics and also how the court has reinstated Abure as Labour Party national chairman. Thank you for reconnecting with us, Monday.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the disconnection.
It's not your fault. All right. So before, sorry?
I said Nigerian network.
All right. So before we went on the break, I was asking about the factions that we can see within the Labour Party, and we would love for you to help us understand, what this faction is all about, and who are the leaders of which factions.
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to take ourselves back to how many factions we have today in the Labour Party. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there should be up to 5 or more. Now, first, the Alhaji Lamidi Apapa broke out of the original Labour Party, and that was where the issue of this factionalization started. And by that, we're having just 2 factions. And again, if you can cast your mind back to sometime last year, around 5th of April, Julius Abure and 3 other principal members of the national body were restrained by the order of the FCT High Court. And as a result of that restraining order, the Apapa faction emerged. And also, don't forget, what led to the case in the FCT High Court was as a result of the suspension of Abure from his ward. And so, as a result of that, Apapa came in as an acting national chairman, because as at the point Abure was restrained, Apapa was the deputy national chairman of the party. So we had to fashion as at that particular point in time. Now going forward, not too long from that, one Mr. Kalitu Sokafo rose up and also said that as at the time the national chairman of Labour Party, Alhaji Abdul Karim, died in 2020, that he was the deputy national chairman of the party. And by Article 14th of 2B of the Labour Party Constitution, in the absence of the national chairman, the deputy national chairman takes over. That's so, after the death of the former national chairman, that he is the person that ought to become the national chairman, and not even Abure, who was at that point was the national secretary of the party. So that gave rise to another faction, making 3 factions. That continued for a while, and then NLC, Nigerian Labour Congress, came up one day and said they are not going to recognize any of them. They set up what they call the National Transition Committee or something like that, headed by the former NLC president. That continued until suddenly again we had that the former presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and the governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, called for stakeholder meeting, and from that stakeholder meeting, another transition committee, Ketka committee, also emerged. I think I've named almost 5 factions so far. And then don't forget, Abure rushed to, before those 2 factions came up, Abure went to Newi and held a convention. And everybody said they were not going to recognize the convention on the ground that Peter Obi was never part of the convention, that INEC did not participate in the convention.
But the court recognizes the convention. And, you talked about 5 factions. That's quite a lot, of factions for just one party. Now, can you speak to us on, the court ruling and, in favor of Abure as a party chairman?
Well, thank you. I think before that court ruling, some of us we earlier argued that in view of the fact that Abure had already held convention, whether legally or illegally, that convention in the eye of the law will still remain until set aside by court. But some other person like the other fashion, the Peter Obi fashion, had argued that INEC did not participate in the fashion. And some of us told them that INEC participation in any convention of the party does not give validity to it. What the Constitution Electoral Act, I think section 82 says that the party must invite INEC, give notice of 21 days to INEC for them to carry out any of their meeting. And so once party has complied with that, it now becomes the discretion of INEC either to attend or not. So whether INEC decide to attend or not does not in any way remove the validity from the any of the meeting held by the party. So some person argue that it was not valid since INEC said they did not attend. But thank God the court that day came up to say, well, whether your position as INEC in any party meeting is only participatory and it is not a compulsory thing. So once you have been informed by the party, you're not attending it, it's of no moment. And the court went ahead to say the convention is valid. Unfortunately, because I'm not in support of Abure, but that is the position of the law, and the court, to my mind, is correct in that position of interpretation.
Okay, now you talked about allegations that the INEC did not attend the convention, but do you think that the INEC would issue a response to this, or maybe counter any litigation as expected?
Well, normally what I expect is that INEC should comply with that positive order of court, because INEC has no business in what happened in Labour Party. They are supposed to be an unbiased umpire. So I do not expect INEC to appeal. But I will not be surprised to see in the coming week that INEC have decided to rush to court of appeal for whatever reason. But if I should advise INEC, they are not party in this suit. They are not members of Labour. INEC is not a member of Labour Party. They have no peculiar interest in Labour Party other than the interest of just being an umpire. So if the court has decided to say Abure Convention is valid, which I am even sad about, it becomes lawful. INEC only duty now is to recognize Abure until probably maybe we decide to come up with any kind of political solution, because the issue in Labour Party today, to me, if you ask me, the only solution is political solution and nothing else.
Okay. Now, just before we let you go, the party had earlier constituted a 29-member caretaker committee with former Finance Minister, Senator Esther Nenadi Usman, as chair. Now, do you expect a reaction from them to this ruling and even a possible compliance to the ruling?
Yes. What I advise them to do now is they have to comply with that order of court now. Because the law is that an order of a court remains valid until set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. So, if we must set a good example before Nigeria, we must, as a party, obey that order of court, and then we have a right to climb upstairs to test the judgment of the Federal High Court before the Court of Appeal. But pending to when any other decision is taken contrarily, every member of the party, no matter how highly placed, we must learn to comply with that order of the court and submit ourselves, unfortunately, to the leadership of Julius Abure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Monday, for taking time out today and also speaking to us on this.
Thank you for having me.
Vice President Kashim Shettima on Saturday unveiled the Nasarawa State Human Capital Development Agency strategy document aimed at enhancing the welfare and livelihoods of residents across the state's 13 local government areas. At a ceremony held at the Government House in Lafia, the Vice President also launched the state's Gender Transformative Human Capital Development Policy Framework, which promotes equity for both men and women. Shettima, who also serves as the national chairman of the Human Capital Development Agenda, reiterated the commitment of President Bola Tinubu's administration to lift many Nigerians out of poverty swiftly through various government policies. Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Saleh, in his remarks, thanked the Vice President for his ongoing support and expressed confidence that the newly launched documents will steer the state towards a future of development, inclusivity, and economic prosperity. Now to security matters. The Ogun State All Progressives Congress Youth Leaders Forum has condemned the murder of Adeleke Adeyinka, a councillorship candidate for Abeokuta South local government in the upcoming November 16 elections. Adeyinka was killed by suspected cultists on Saturday around 12 p.m. in the Jide Jones area of Okelewo, Abeokuta. Now, according to reports, the assailants arrived in a tinted car and one of them stepped out to shoot the 40-year-old transport union worker at close range. The attacker then brutally smashed the victim's head to ensure that he was dead before fleeing the scene with the others. In a statement released on Sunday, the APC Youth Leaders Forum called for justice and urged security agencies to swiftly bring Adeyinka's killers to justice. In the same vein, the Ogun State Police Command has launched a manhunt for the killers of Adeleke Adeyinka, an All Progressives Congress councillorship candidate in the upcoming November 16 local government elections. Adeyinka, who was running for the councillorship seat of Ward 15 in Abeokuta South local government, was also a transport union worker in the Pansheke area of Abeokuta. Now, the command's spokesperson, Omolola Odutola, confirmed the incident to journalists, stating that an investigation into the murder has already begun and efforts are underway to apprehend the suspects. Odutola confirmed that Adeyinka was killed by suspected cultists and added that the victim's body has been released to his family. Away from that, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says its operatives at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, have arrested a Thailand returnee, Ogwejofo Nemeka Simon Peter, for importing 13.30 kilograms of heroin worth over 3.192 billion naira. In a statement signed by the NDLEA spokesperson, Femi Baba Femi, to newsmen on Sunday, Ogwejofo was arrested while attempting to smuggle the illicit drug concealed in 6 backpacks and then packed into 2 big suitcases out of the airport. The 29-year-old graduate of mechanical engineering from the Chukwuemeka Odumegu Ojukwu University, Uli in Anambra State, was said to have left Thailand on October 3 on Qatar Airways flight and stopped over in Doha, where he spent 2 days before heading to Lagos. The ancient city of Asaba, Delta State capital, was recently agog as dignitaries and indigents gathered to witness the historic coronation of Professor Epiphany Azinge as the 14th Asaba of Asaba. In this report, News Central correspondent Austin Azu seeks to unravel the people's expectations from Azinge, a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Dignitaries from all walks of life, including indigents of Ahaba, converged on the late Asaba's palace in Asaba to witness the coronation ceremony of Professor Epiphany Azinge as the 14th Asaba of Asaba. Before the crowning of the new Asaba, the regent Louis Edozie, who has held brief since the death of the former Asaba on 13th February 2024, transferred the staff of office to Obi Azinge. Thereafter, other rites were held, culminating in anointing and formal crowning as the 14th Asaba of Asaba, in the presence of members of the Asaba Council, OBs, chiefs, and eminent personalities from within and outside the state. In his acceptance speech, Obi Azinge, flanked by his wife, thanked the Ochendo, son of the former Asaba, for effectively midwifing the peaceful and transparent process that led to his selection, and urged other eminent contenders who were not as lucky as he was to join him in giving Asaba a purposeful reign.
In the course of my declaration to contest for the exalted throne of our land, I made, amongst others, the following pledges: that I will uphold and promote the traditions and culture of Asaba people, that I will foster unity among our people and promote inclusivity and not exclusivity. That I will sow seeds of love and filial fidelity among our people. That I will encourage the establishment of welfare/development fund for community development of Asaba. That I will vigorously pursue the building of the palace of the Asaba of Asaba. So help me God.
Meanwhile, a cross-section of indigenous people of Asaba urged the new Asaba to bring about the needed transformation that would reposition Asaba for greatness, collaborate with governments and others to ensure the realization of the ancient city.
The things that we have been missing, that we have been losing in the state capital as the capital of the state, it will bring it back to us so that they will know that Asaba is the capital, not whereby Asaba being the capital, and Asaba will be looking down on the state level, state government level.
All these things our governor are doing, he will need to talk to them because Asaba people need somebody who is slightly and somebody who is learned and know his right and left.
One of the things I'm expecting from him is for him to bring back our age-old tradition.
Our new king is enlightened. He knows something, so he knows that we have a non-indigenous. We're working with non-indigenous before. I know that we continue where the old one stopped to make Asaba to the next level.
With the traditional rites over, the state government would, in the days ahead, present the staff of office to the new Asaba. In Asaba, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, at least 7 people have been killed in southwest of Johannesburg after a gunman opened fire before the alleged shooter turned the gun on himself, the most recent in a shocking run of mass shootings in South Africa. Now, according to the police, 5 family members, including a 3-year-old boy, were killed at Mokoklong, over 40 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg in the early hours of Sunday morning. A neighbor and a family friend were also killed. In a statement, the police said the shooting occurred after a man had gone to a local tavern and, finding it closed, had an altercation with the tavern owner, who then followed him home. We now head to the east of the continent, where a Sudanese volunteer rescue network reported on Sunday that a military airstrike on a marketplace in Khartoum on Saturday resulted in the deaths of 23 people. The market is located near a major camp of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, which the military has been battling in a civil war that has claimed tens of thousands of lives. According to the youth-led emergency response rooms, 23 people were confirmed dead and more than 40 others wounded in the airstrike. The wounded were transported to the hospital following the attack on the southern Khartoum market. Staying in the east, intercommunal clashes in the southeastern Kenya have killed at least 18 people in the past 2 weeks, police said on Saturday, as security was boosted in the affected areas. Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki declared 12 areas of Tana River County dangerous and disturbed due to the clashes, which have pitted communities of pastoralists against resettled flood victims. Kenya's National Police Chief Douglas Kanja ordered residents to surrender their firearms to prevent a further escalation of violence. The fighting, which has been most severe in the town of Bura, began when the county government offered land to rehome people displaced by flooding on the banks of Tana River, the longest in Kenya. Local pastoralists protested, arguing that those people being relocated would be occupying their grazing grounds. The government of Namibia has sought the help of Nigeria's Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in its fight against corruption in the country. Now, this was just as it declared that because Nigeria is leading in the fight against corruption in Africa, it needs to share its remarkable achievements in fighting corruption. According to a statement cited on the Commission's website on Saturday, the partnership is aimed at exploring training opportunities as well as sharing of expertise with personnel of the Namibian Anti-Corruption Commission in the fight against corruption. The statement noted that Namibian government made the call on when its ambassador to Nigeria, Humphrey J.C., paid a courtesy visit to the ICPC's headquarters in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. In other news from around the world, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has on Sunday called on the UN chief to move peacekeepers deployed in South Lebanon out of harm's way, claiming Hezbollah used them as human shields. His appeal to UN Chief Antonio Guterres comes a day after the United Nations interim force in Lebanon refused to withdraw from the border area despite 5 of its members being injured amid recent fighting.
Mr. Secretary General, get the UNIFIL forces out of harm's way. It should be done right now, immediately. אני רוצה מכאן לפנות ישירות למזכ"ל האו"ם. הגיע הזמן שתוציא את יוניפיל ממעוזי החיזבאללה וממרחבי הלחימה. צה"ל ביקש זאת שוב ושוב, והוא נתקל בסירוב שוב ושוב, שכל כולו מכוון לתת חומת מגן אנושית למחבלי חיזבאללה. הסירוב שלך לפנות את חיילי יוניפיל הופך אותם לבני ערובה של חיזבאללה. זה מסכן גם אותם?
Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Ghalibaf, on Saturday denounced Israel's crimes as he visited the site of the deadliest Israel strikes on central Beirut in recent weeks. Now, a source close to Hezbollah had said Thursday night strikes in the densely populated Basta neighborhood and the nearby Nweri district had targeted the Iran-backed Lebanese group security chief Wafik Safar. While neither Israel's military nor Hezbollah confirmed Safar was the target or commented on the fate, Lebanon's health ministry said the strikes killed at least 22 people, the deadliest inside the capital in weeks of escalation.
جمهوری اسلامی ایران از تصمیمات دولت لبنان، ملت لبنان و مقاومت در این زمان در زمینه‌های مختلف حتما حمایت خواهد. من در سفر امروز که به مقصد بیروت اومدم، از تهران اومدم به بیروت که سلام گرم ملت ایران رو و دولت ایران رو، مجلس ایران رو و به ویژه پیام رهبر معظم انقلاب رو به مردم لبنان برسونم که مطمئن باشید جمهوری اسلامی ایران در این شرایط سخت کنار ملت لبنان، دولت لبنان و مقاومت در همه
In business, Dangote Group is set to begin crude oil production from 2 blocks before the year's end to address supply challenges for its refinery. This is according to S&P Global Commodity Insights, a provider of energy and commodities information. According to S&P Global Commodity Insight, Dangote is seeking a floating production storage and offloading vessel with a 650,000 barrel capacity. The crude will be sourced from the Kolawole and Koronmana oil fields near the Boni terminal. Dangote holds an 85% stake in OMLs 71 and 72, operated by West African E&P Venture, which has a 45% interest, with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company holding 55%. Due to insufficient supply from Nigeria, Dangote's refinery has been importing crude from the U.S., receiving under 200,000 barrels per day from Nigeria last month. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. You heard that PDP Governors Forum schedules emergency meeting for Monday. You also heard that Thailand returnee nabbed with 3.1 billion naira heroin concealed in bags at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos. Finally, we told you that 7 people shot dead in a home in Johannesburg. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Osman.